You have a lot of these other people that have been around for a little while and they're like, hustle is dead. You shouldn't be hustling. And the reality is like, no, there is a time to hustle, that you have to hustle. That's what you got to do. You got to get out, find opportunity, seek opportunity. Worse than that, you have to make opportunity.
On this show, we're going to sit down and talk about the metamorphosis that happens when you become a leader.
We'll share our biggest wins and our losses and interview other leaders to find out how they stay in charge without losing their minds.
I'm Stephanie.
And I'm Zach. Welcome to the Who's in Charge podcast. What is up, everybody? What is up, my loves? I am excited for today to talk about this change of going from like hustle chaos into like calm boss energy type stuff, and how to identify issues with burnout and how we work through systems and automation and people to kind of get out of that hustle mindset and more into actually leading and running a company, which is not passive, by the way. I think we'll get into that as well.
I think it's ironic that we're talking about calm boss energy today when you are amped.
I am fired up today.
You
Let's go.
Fired up today. I'm a little bit scared. You've been feisty all morning.
I have been feisty all morning.
You have been feisty, and now we're going to talk about being a calm boss. And so maybe this is ironic. Maybe it's serendipitous. I don't know.
Yeah, but it's all. I think what it is it's something that I feel kind of passionate about. As with most things, I take this like middle of the road type era, right? Where it's like, I think there's a lot of information out there that go both ways, right? They're like, you got to hustle your ass off. And then you have a lot of these other people that have been around for a little while and they're like, hustle is dead. You shouldn't be hustling. And the reality is like, no, there is a time to hustle, that you have to hustle. That's what you got to do. You got to get out, find opportunity, seek opportunity. Worse than that, you have to make opportunity. When you start first getting into any business, you have to be able to make opportunities happen. Then you're looking for opportunities. And then you transition to like, okay, there's more opportunities than I know what to do for. I have to be discerning. And then I have to find some automations and systems to then have the ability to work yourself out of this hustle. But I also think you have to be very careful about being too much anti-hustle, because the reality is somebody in your organization damn well better be hustling. I think if you have a sales organization, so it's a hustle to get anything. And you may sit back and be like, no, I have these PPC leads that just come in. Yeah, you and 15 other people are on that lead. Somebody is going to hustle to out-hustle the other person to get that lead. But anyway, sometimes when I'm too amped, I got to mute my microphone and give you a spot to talk.
Well,
I'm passionate.
I know, and I love it. And I think that the truth is there is a period where you have to hustle, right? And work really, really hard and almost dissociate from the pain. Like you got to dissociate from your body and the pain that you go through to launch something in the middle of your life, right? Like for us, it was in the middle of our young kids and working another W-2 job and like staying up all night. Like that was hustle. I think where the problem comes in with hustle is the addiction to it. And then the chaos that ensues from when you're like in that cycle. So breaking out of that and learning new patterns and transitioning to something sustainable, like building a team and having processes that keeps you from burnout. Because if you don't do that, then you stay in the hustle cycle and you stop, you just give up because you just burn out. It's not worth it anymore. For after you put in so many years of that, there has to be some point of transition where things feel a little bit more stable for you to sustain, in my opinion. So I think the hardest part about hustle is first starting it, but then stopping it.
Yeah.
Like the middle part, like you kind of get used to, right?
Right. It's the hardest lesson to learn, because literally what made you successful. You will not be successful if you start a business that's not an established business. You can go buy a business, but you will not start a new business without some element of hustle. You will not be successful. So then you wind up having to take and this is what we talk about here, right? Is the idea of this leadership journey being a journey into a leader, that what made me successful. I wouldn't be successful if it were not for this thing. And now I have to give it up and transition it into another level of leadership. I think that's a really hard lesson to learn.
Yeah. I think the addiction for me is being just a little bit better, like 1% better. Like, I can put a little bit more effort in, right? And so much, I'll speak for myself, so much that we've accomplished or I've accomplished has been from like brute force effort. Like I
Yeah.
can freaking outwork anybody. I'll run circles around whoever, right?
Sure.
Because I will literally will not stop until it gets done. But I found myself, you know, what was it? 5 years ago? 4 years ago, something like that, like in an epic burnout cycle. And things and they needed to change and I couldn't just outwork everybody anymore. Like otherwise I feel like I would die. It was
Yeah.
way too much. So there had to be a transition and I had to develop a different skill set and a mindset because I'll go back. I think the skill set for the hustle is the mindset that you have to put yourself in to just push through all the things and figure out a way to have everything happen. And then you have to build a different mindset, skill set to transition to a leader of that first of all that anyone wants to follow or that trusts them because they're stable or
Yeah.
thoughtful, right? That part I think is a really difficult transition.
And I think it's one of the things that I actually love about our journey is I feel like we've been able to push each other at different times and teach each other different lessons. Like we are not the same person. We have a lot of similarities, but we're not the same person. And some one of the lessons that I always love going back to is the damn paint at 5:30 at night on a Friday night. And so, we've told our origin story. If you haven't listened to that yet, you can go back and listen to that. But there was a period of hustle for sure, working 50 hours a week plus at a W-2 job, raising 3 young kids, trying to start flipping houses, trying to put systems and processes together there, but not really having them dialed in. And it was like Friday night, traffic in Charlotte is crap, and a painter needed paint. And he's like, hey, can you come and bring me the paint? And Stephanie, of course, lovely volunteered me.
I'm like,
Hey,
I'll get
go
there.
ahead.
Let's go.
Go ahead. Yeah. So Stephanie and her brute force telling me that it's okay for me to go hop in, 77 traffic for the next 2 hours to deliver somebody paint to a flip. At that point, that's where my burnout burst through the floor. And I'm like, I am not explicitly bringing paint to this guy. We got to figure out another way. And that was, a painful way for probably, and it's probably obvious for a lot of the people that are listening now, like, of course, don't go buy his paint. But as we were starting out, that was not obvious. I like, dude, go to Home Depot and have them call me. I'll give you my credit card. And I just gained 4 hours of my life back on a Friday night that I get to be with my family or get to be doing something else that's a higher value task than bringing that out. But
It was a huge aha moment for me too, because I was like, "Oh, no, of course you just show up. Like, that's what's needed. I'm going to go get it. Like, we got to go make it happen." And then when you said, "No, just pay for it and have him pick it up at Home Depot," and I was like, "Oh, wait, we should do that more. We like that's way more efficient for everybody's time. Like, he's going to have to wait for us to get there. It's actually quicker for him to just go pick it up." And the problem that we were trying to solve was that he didn't want to go buy the paint, right? He didn't want to front the cost of the paint. So that's why
yeah,
he asked for us to come deliver it. But we could have just paid for it at the store. So it was a really cool aha moment of like, oh yeah, wait, there's a way smarter way to work than just brute force. Uh, so that was a cool moment. Like I say this a lot, but I think limitations are really helpful. When you put a line in the sand, and you're like, no, we can't do it this way anymore. Then all of a sudden you have to be more creative and find a different way to do it, right?
yeah,
So
yeah.
having that limitation of like, no, we literally can't drive 2 hours tonight to go do that. I'm like, okay, well, then what are the other options, right? And then you just solve the problem a different way. So I think that was a cool lesson, and I feel like that comes up often now too. Like,
Yeah.
oh shoot, we got to do things a different way now. That's not possible anymore.
And then so this is why I think like when we were talking about the idea of even these systems, which are going to be, tech tools, but also people can be tools, can't just be a passive thing. I mean, example today, I went out to be an example of, what brute force not taking no for an answer looks like. We had a house, we couldn't get into it. We couldn't get pictures because I mean, literally, a guy fell through the floor, and like that was a no go. And so I took that as an opportunity to show people what brute force is going to look like. I'm not doing this every day, but what does brute force actually look like to go out here and not accept no for an answer and find a way around? I made a floor with foldable chairs. Like we will find a damn way to be able to do it. So that's where I think like. Yes, you don't have to be the one hustling and grinding every single moment, but like there's got to be that type of of mindset to an organization of like we don't just fall over. It is not just passive.
I think that's so valid because in this case with this particular house that you're talking about, the limitation was nobody wanted to drive an hour. to go get pictures of this house. And like,
Well, there's
oh,
also
well,
the fear. There's also the
well, there,
bro did
for
just fall
sure.
through the floor.
For sure. There's a little bit of a dangerous work site. I think surmountable though, obviously. But there was this thing like, well, we need pictures and how do we do it? And like everyone was kind of burning out over, well, we can't get pictures. Maybe this homeowner who lives out of state can come bring the keys. And like, we're never gonna get this keys. This guy hasn't seen this house in years. Somebody just literally has to go in the daytime and see the house. But it was an hour away from our office, and everyone's like, oh well, it's gonna waste 2 hours of my day. And
I
then
will
you see
not
like
be
kind of
defeated by a 3 feet worth of crap floor. Sorry,
see,
go
you're
ahead.
very feisty today.
Feisty, bro.
You're feisty. But yeah, I mean, then like the opposite is true, right? Like we can't just accept a limitation without a solution. And so everybody's got to have like this consistent pressure to get things done, from the top to the bottom, and solving problems together, not just delaying decision making because you don't have an immediate answer or there's a limitation like I don't want to drive. So there's definitely a difference between working smarter and then being lazy. Like, not to
Yeah.
be super blunt about it, but like, I think we can get trapped in the other mindset too of like, oh, I can't do that because it's not scalable. Well, there's sometimes you got to do the thing that's not scalable because that's what needs to get done, you know? And
Absolutely.
so I think it's just like anything, it's a line to walk that you have to walk carefully. I think some people struggle with too much hustle and some people struggle with not enough hustle. And there is a very nice fine line to walk to be healthy between both of them. But to your point, your whole organization and the culture of your organization should be on problem solving and collaboration, and pushing things forward, not just saying, well, that sucks to drive. So I don't want to drive. We got a problem to solve. Let's go fix it, you know?
Yeah, I think it's really important to know thyself, right? I think you said something really valuable. The idea that like some people need to push harder, some people have to know how to put the brake on, and so there's not a one fits all type piece of advice for people. Like
Yeah.
literally, you have to step out of yourself. You have to be honest enough with yourself about who am I and what am I accepting for limitations to know, do I need to push harder or do I need to take my foot off the gas? And it's not even just by the person. I will say in our business, in my life, there are times where I've looked, I'm like, I need to be pushing harder. And then there's other times where I'm like, I need to no be backing off of this or finding another way. Um,
Yeah. I think it's helpful to have somebody spot check you on that, that's
yeah,
non-biased. But I think most people need to stick in the hustle a little bit more, right? And
yeah.
I'm just, do you remember that quote? I can't remember what the reality TV show was, but it was like the guy was doing push-ups and the it was like some military things like save the drama for your mama and push. I think there's a period of life where you have to do that. And it was interesting. I struggle with the hustle. Like I get caught up in the hustle and the brute force and just relying on myself and like difficult time giving things to other people because I feel bad and I want to do them all and like maintain it all. So for me, there's been a huge transition of like trying to get away from the hustle trap, addiction of chaos and like firefighting and oops, I'm the arson. And so that was a very big struggle for me that landed me in burnout, several years ago. But it was really funny. Recently, I had like a mirror moment. It reminded me just how different things are now and how grateful I am to be on the other side of that hustle culture. But I was talking to, another real estate professional here in Charlotte. We were talking about houses and deals or whatever, and we had this scheduled Zoom call. And she shows up to the Zoom call super late, doesn't say anything, like 10, 15 minutes late, but like no text or whatever. And we're like, what's going on? Is this meeting still on? The other people in the meeting were there. And she joins and she's in the passenger seat of a car. Her husband's driving. She's like, flustered because she's answering from the phone and like, oh, I'm sorry I'm late. And she's on a job site. And then like she gets out of the car during the Zoom meeting, which is not about the job site she's on, it's about something else. And someone's talking to her, a contractor was talking to her, and she's like answering their questions. And, I don't know, her husband asks a question and she's like, yeah, put the sign there or whatever. And like she was really, really busy. And there was a moment in my life where I was like, that's what a boss looks like. The boss is like moving and grooving. We're in motion all the time. People are asking questions, you're answering them, and like you're in this constant state of like, I don't know, arms all over the place, pointing and like getting things done, decision making or whatever. And it feels like crap to do that. And so now looking at that from the other side, here I am, I'm on time to the meeting, I'm prepared for my meeting, right? Like
In your
I
air
have the
conditioned office.
I have made time in my life for this meeting with somebody else, and I have margin, and I'm like emotionally and like physically prepared for this meeting. And again, it's not like anything earth shattering. It's just that I made a commitment. It was on my calendar, and like I'm in a calm place and not doing 17 things at once to take this call. And it just made me feel like that's probably what I looked like 5 years ago, you know? And
Yeah.
it's not a great look. You know, for me, that feel like on the receiving end, it makes me feel like, well, maybe this isn't important, right? Because
Right.
like it wasn't important enough for you to block off. And again, like this was no like presidential election decision. It was really not that serious of a call. But even though it wasn't, it just felt like, oh, I'm not important, you know. And I was like, dang, how many people did I make feel that way,
Yeah.
you know? And that's, I think that's that transition of like what boss energy is, and like, do you want the boss that's constantly firefighting and like transitioning really quickly from task to task and like getting things done and being very decisive, but like very visibly transitioning quickly and flustered, even if they're correct when they're doing the thing? Or do you want the boss, or to be the boss that's like listening, making room for you, and being decisive and calm and like steady? Like what kind of emotional feeling do you want to be, right? And I know that I want to be the person that can make a calm decision, even in a very high stress situation. It's like you can be calm and present and like attentive to the situation without, being part of the chaos. So that was a really interesting moment for me recently where I was like, oh, dang, that was me. And I'm
Yeah.
really glad that it's different now because it feels so much more mentally better. You know what I mean?
Yeah. I mean, I love the statement of be where your feet are. Like it's
Yeah.
so critical of like be where you are. And we've talked about it on a previous episode as well. Like attention is one of my things. I don't want to spend 3 hours, distracted from somebody. I would much rather have 5 minutes of dedicated time. And
Yep.
I can't be the only one that feels that way. And so, like you said, whatever else you're doing as a distraction, yes, you think you're multitasking. We can go back and forth about, oh, I can multitask. I can't. Oh, I can because I'm a woman and you can't. Like there's all that stuff. But at the end of the day, study after study after study has proven like that people can't. And even if you can, like you said, even if you can come get to the right decision, like what does the other person feel like on the other side of that? And the only thing I want to put a somewhat correction into what you said is like it feels bad to do all those things. It feels bad to do all those things at a certain point because you get burnt out. But
Right.
let's be honest. There's a moment where that shit feels good,
No, you're
right?
right.
Because you're the
Yeah.
hero. All these people need me. I'm doing this, and look at all I got done. What'd you do today? I got 7 conversations done at once, and everything moved forward. And so it's like
Yeah.
that transition from like, all right, yes, you will burn out, but it does feel good. So you're actually saying no to what's made you successful and saying no to what actually feels good in the moment to build systems and build into other people.
Yeah.
You talked about the burnout. I don't want to make the whole episode about burnout, but I do think it's a real thing. Being honest with people about that. Do you want to talk about kind of your journey of like what made you feel burnt out? Like how did you recognize the burnout in yourself? Like when was that limit and what some of the changes were? Did you have to say no to things to like, all right, this
Yeah.
this is what I recognize as danger symptoms, and now I need to make decisions to change my future.
Yeah. This is interesting. I mean, so I think I had first of all, it does feel good to get all the things done and to be pushing everything forward all the time. And I can physically do a lot. Like I can, compartmentalize really well and like get a lot of things done. It feels good to get things done, but I never really accounted for the cost of that. Like I had a personal cost and that I didn't want to recognize, like the toll that it took on me to do all the things. So could I physically do it? Yeah. And it's funny, that's how I measured whether something was reasonable or not. Like, is it humanly, physically possible for me to do this task? Yes. Okay, then I can do it.
Let me
Like
just
that was
interrupt
how
and say
I
Stephanie is not reasonable. She is superhuman. So like when she is using that as a bar, it's a dangerous bar to use. Like
yeah.
your baseline is more productive and efficient than most people's peak performance. So when you're trying to figure out where can I possibly stretch this out to where it might just one step, it reminds me of like a NASCAR like driver that's like, and the car's about to go out of control, I guess this is where
Yeah.
I keep it. Like, keep
No,
going. Sorry.
that's literally the line that I was at. I was like, this is the line of physically, humanly possible. So that's the bar that I need to maintain. And I maintained that level of like redlining RPMs or whatever to use your NASCAR reference. Like I maintained that level for like a decade. It was not good. And then it all kind of like hit the fan, and I hit this big brick wall of burnout where I was like, I think it was the day that I fell asleep walking down the stairs of our house. Like I don't know
That's a tough moment for me. I
that
remember it
I
like
was
it was
like,
yesterday.
and you were like, you just fell asleep. I was like, and I don't know, it was late at night. It was probably midnight, but I had been awake forever, and we're all the things going on, right? And I was like, oh my god, I can't live like this. I fell asleep walking down the stairs. Like, what kind of crazy person does that, right? So that really made me take a hard look at like, okay, I have a lot on my plate. And if I'm really honest with myself, I am scared to take things off my plate because what if something I'm doing fails? And I think this was the transition for me is that I kept a lot of things going, and a lot of stuff on my plate, and a lot of maintenance of a lot of different things like the hospital, and I was doing consulting, and I was running Left Main, I was running Better Path, and we had our kids and all the stuff. But the thing that stressed me out the most and kind of kept me in the hustle culture was I was really afraid of some sort of financial collapse from one of the ventures that we were doing. And we were like, we're all in with Better Path, right? Like we had gone all in with our personal finances and like invested, and then we have all these projects going, and you're like, oh my god, I can't just go pick up a shift to cover a mistake on a flip, right? Like the business has got to self-sustain, and like obviously there's plenty of problems with all the different businesses. And no W-2 job is ever completely stable. Like anything could happen. Who knows, right? Maybe not likely, but you never know. So when I really was confronted with having to take something off my plate, I had to be confronted with, well, what if something fails? Like that's why I was doing everything, because then of all the things I was doing, one of them was going to be fine and we'd be financially secure because I had the thing. So I was like, oh, okay, this is about trust. I'm
Yeah.
creating chaos because I'm afraid to focus and put my eggs in one basket, which, looking back, like it wasn't even one basket. Like, let's just not have 10 baskets, you know?
Yeah.
So that I had to face that fear of failure in a really big way.
And I think there's that's a transition point, right? From like side hustle to an actual operating business. And there's a
Yeah.
statement that says, he who chases two birds catches none, or whatever. That's something along,
Rabbits, but yeah.
fool me once, fool on me, fool. Anyways,
All
don't
right,
fool me.
just
Anyways,
stop.
there we go. Okay. But yeah, so it is easy to have like a side hustle that doesn't really matter. I was talking to our son the other day about like starting something up. He's like, why don't you start it? Like, I don't have time to start it, bro. You've got nothing going on. There's no risk for you. Like, the whole operation could go to hell in a handbasket. And what? You still got a place to live. You still got food. Like, so there's a benefit to having like a side hustle and having additional time. But once you get an organization up to another level where like this shit is real, like this isn't just about a side hustle. Like, it's got to be able to sustain. And when you're getting to that level, you've got to be able to make decisions where you're changing from treating it like a side hustle into like your main thing, and like make the, what is the one thing, like make the main thing the main thing.
Yeah, I think that's the transition of, and because I see a lot of people doing that too, like chasing shiny objects. And so this is, I think, where the discernment comes in. Are you chasing shiny objects because you're afraid of your thing failing and you're trying to diversify and dilute your risk? Like, is that why you're chasing it? Because, like, well, if that works out and this works out, and then maybe this, and you're like robbing Peter to pay Paul and playing this crazy game. Like, is that why you're chasing the shiny object? Or have you identified a true opportunity that, like, you're willing to put infrastructure around completely? And I think talking to other business owners and entrepreneurs, it's usually the first one. And that's why, like, when I said that out loud for the first time, I was really scared to admit that, right? Because, like, I want to be successful. I want to be perceived as successful. And then all of a sudden I'm going to tell all my peers, like, well, I'm actually I'm only successful because I'm super afraid of failing. Like any one of these, right? Like it was really hard to say out loud. And then once I said it, everyone was like, well, actually me too. That's why I have this and this. And like, and they're burning out because they have their eggs in multiple baskets and they're trying to, you know, take a little bit from Peter to pay Paul and like keep themselves diversified without the things around it that it needs to be truly successful. And and then so kind of realizing that and verbalizing that, I think helped me better identify what true opportunity looks like, and is it worth focus? If it's worth focus and there's opportunity, like, then maybe I should do it or incorporate it. Or and now I know too, like, what it takes to make it successful and what it takes for there to be focus and the team and the structure and all that. So like I think identifying that part of your burnout loop is really helpful to develop discernment.
Yeah. And actually, I was just taking notes as you're talking. The idea of discernment. So I think fear is a big one, right? Fear,
Yeah,
failure, fear of failures. But there's other reasons why you may hang on to things, and they can be positive reasons.
for sure.
The reality of like fun. Like sometimes it's just fun, and you have to, discern. Like, all right, I'm doing 12 things, and I have fun with all of them. Like, is this appropriate to spread myself amongst all 12, or do I have to say no to something that's actually fun? And another big one that we didn't talk about is the idea of identity. What do I have my identity wrapped up in?
Mhm.
And, our background is medicine. I've got 8 years worth of education of my life um, dedicated to just learning a craft, learning a trade.
Mhm.
And then I've got another 8 years worth of like getting, I don't know if respect is the right word, but like getting good at that craft and being respected amongst the community, and was teaching new PAs, and it was one of the most exciting things for me to actually be able to give
Yeah.
back into that community and to be doing a really good job. And a huge identity was into there. And to say no to that, now I'm giving up my identity for what? This hope and an effing dream. I got a vision that I'm going to be a real estate investor, and saying no to that fun thing that I'm also kind of have a little bit of my identity wrapped up into. And I've got to say no to that on top of the fear of like what is going to happen
Yeah.
as well. So I think
Well,
really
how
getting
did you
honest.
rectify that then? Like, how did you make sense of that identity shift?
And so I'm a little bit analytical with everything, right? And the idea of like actually analyzing what do I have set to gain from something versus what are the risks. And so you have the risk of starting a new venture of am I going to fail? And a lot of it came down to me for family and opportunity. And so the way that I looked at it is my family is young. I can't continue the way that I'm going right now, working 80 hours a week until when for the next 10 years, and my kids are going to be gone. The knowledge and the opportunity for me to be a medical professional will always be there. I think it's a great job. I think it's a noble job, and I think it makes decent money, but I was not going to have the opportunity of financial freedom with it. And really, one of the biggest kickers came back into the idea of time freedom. When I first started
Yeah.
in this business, we were listening to podcasts, and it was the idea of like write out your ideal day. I'd write out your ideal week and what would that look like. And there was no way for me to create that life within the medical world, but there was a way, there was an opportunity for me to create that within the real estate world. And so I had all of these opportunities that I could realize. And I think we talked about that in one of the other ones. If I can get to the point where I'm like, okay, I'm securely making even just break even to what I would in a medical world, but have a better lifestyle, I was ready to pull the ripcord and go towards that. And I still think to the idea of like fast forward when our kids are gone and the real estate's going, like money aside, like would I used to say all the time, like, I wish I was just treating people medically under a tree somewhere. Like, put me outside on a
No
freak
EHR.
on a be yeah, I don't want to write any documentation of it. What is
Yeah.
your problem? Let me
No
fix you,
billing.
and let's move on with life. So I mean, there's still a passion there that I think, maybe I go back to, or maybe I pull some of that passion of helping people into kind of like what we're doing here today. Like, all right, what are the lessons that we've learned along the way, and can we impart those on, uh, you know, multiplication influence is really kind of where my passion is today. If I can fulfill that through this, maybe we do that, or maybe I go back to, you know, the medical world and treating people under a tree, free healthcare under
Well,
the palm tree.
we still have our little patients that we follow, which is fun. Um, and we still can contribute to that part of people's lives. But I do think that, because I had the same a similar transition. I had to leave medicine too, and a job I loved, like loved my job, loved my colleagues, loved my patients, just loved heart surgery and critical care. Like I just loved it. And for me, it was a similar identity shift. Like, like, who am I then? If I don't introduce myself as like, oh, I'm an NP, It was like, oh, I'm a real estate investor. Like, what does that mean? It's a whole story. It's not like, yeah. But I think that the way I defined it was, well, I like people a lot and I love solving complex problems. So I can apply that basically anywhere. But that's more of my identity. And I think there's different use cases for that skill set and that
That's
passion,
why you
right?
fell in love with me, right? Complex problem.
Very
She's like, there's a
complicated.
complex problem. I'm
There's
falling
a
in
lot
love.
to sort through there, but we're 20 years later.
Lifestyle of issues you could work out.
No, I just
Which,
think it's our crazy matches each other's crazy.
yeah. Which can kind of bring this into what we're talking about too, right? When we first started, so right now you're, big bad CEO of your of Left Main, and that's kind of moving and going well. But kind of going back to our origin with real estate, I had these crazy ideas of like, hey, let's build some houses, flip some houses, and didn't really know what the hell I was doing. But you were super impactful to the success of that business of like, okay, you've got these ideas, like you've got to organize the ideas and you've got to organize some sort of system. So you've always been, from our first file, like literally file cabinet system, right? Of like, hey,
Yeah.
you got to organize your stuff, put it in a file cabinet and pull the files to spreadsheets to ultimately kind of, you went out and developed a whole damn CRM for it. But you want to talk about some of the systems and automation that we've instituted that have kind of helped
Yeah.
with some of this burnout?
I think that you alarm me with your ADHD and I'm like I can't function like this. I got to make sense of all
Don't
this.
throw out my Post-it note, damn it. I
Oh
know
my
it's
gosh.
crimpled. Don't throw it out.
Okay, he writes the most critical pieces of information onto like ripped off pieces of paper that I just find places and it's like scribbling on. I'm like, I don't know what this is. I'm gonna throw it out. And he's like, no, that was our last will and testament. I'm like, well, don't leave it around, like that. Anyway, I think doing for me, the way I cope with doing really hard things is understanding the hard thing, and being organized. And I think that kind of goes back to like my medical roots, right? Like I'm dealing with a critical care patient. And when somebody's really sick, and you're sitting at the bedside with them, you're looking at your patient and you're looking at the monitor and you're looking at all these things and you're trying to measure and kind of make sense of the whole picture. And so I kind of applied that similar mindset, which I didn't know how to be any other way, to our business. And so we've got wacky Zacky over here trying to we're gonna go in 5 different markets and we're gonna do 200 houses. And I'm just like, oh my God, okay. How do we where are we right now? Right? Where do we start? And I kind of had to put into some sort of system on where we're going to organize our offers and our leads, but then also how we were going to organize our roles and the tasks that needed to get done along the way. And so that kind of started the system. And like you said, it started first with like manila envelopes and a filing cabinet. And then it evolved into, okay, we're using 5 or 6 different systems. None of them talk to each other. There's data chaos and our teams are struggling with working well together. We got to figure out a way to work smarter together and have all these things communicate with each other. And then what can we automate? Like, what can I put in a sequence that the software does it so a human doesn't have to do it? Like, where's the low hanging fruit with that? And that was what, 15 years ago. That the answer to that question is way different now than it was 15 years ago, where it was a huge deal to have somebody in a text message drip sequence. Like that was super new, right? Novel concept. And now we're talking about automating outbound AI calls to our follow-up base, right? So I think the way it looks every year changes, but the question is the thing that's the most important. What can I automate? What can I first of all, what is my system? Let me put something into place that makes sense, that is a framework that our team can operate in. And then where are the opportunities inside that framework to remove the human from some of the aspects or make the human's job way easier? And the framework, I think, is the most important. I think that's something that we take for granted the most, being the entrepreneurial minds. Like normal people don't think like that. Normal people don't just go out and build something. Normal people want to come into a system and come into a framework of how to be successful. They want to be told how to be successful. What do I do today? What should I do today? What should I do tomorrow? Right? Like everyone wants to know what their job role is and their responsibilities and how they're going to be judged for success. And when you're first launching a business, you don't think about any of those things. You're just thinking about how the heck do I get a deal done? Right?
Yeah.
And so while you're building and you're trying to transition out of this hustle this hustle phase, you have to have a framework around you that people can walk into and actually help you. Otherwise, and ask me how I know, you'll find yourself surrounded by people who are very eager to take a task from you, like to receive a task from you, and they're waiting to be told what to do. And that is the worst. You don't want great smart people waiting for you to tell them what to do, and that's super overwhelming for you to have to tell people what to do. You want people to come into a system that they can be successful in, and like, I don't know, kind of brings the process down the river, right? As you operate in it. And so that's what I was charged to do with Better Path Homes. And the only way I knew how to contribute to the success of that company was, how do we make a framework? How do we establish standards of like what's going to be successful and what's not? And that's like checkpoints, like how many offers should be accepted, like how many appointments should be attended, like just answering simple questions like that to try to figure out where we're doing well and where we're not doing well, and comparing that to other companies. And that rabbit hole went deep and wide and became Left Main. And I have never had more fun in my life than I am having right now, building that company, building that product, serving real estate investors, obviously serving Better Path, like customer number one, and like taking all the problems that are happening live, that we're encountering at Better Path and our customers are encountering, and like just making the framework better, making the product better. It's just super, super rewarding and exciting.
Yeah, and you've done a great job, right, of whatever's going on out there. Like, first of all, bringing clarity. I think if you don't see something, if it's not clear, like you don't even know what
Yeah.
the problems are. But then bringing things so that you're making things easier, right? Improving efficiency, and in some
Yeah.
cases, like you said, just getting rid of the task altogether, has been huge. Um, and the idea of decision, I think we take for granted decision fatigue, and like, what
Yeah.
decisions do I have to make? And if you can reduce the amount of, especially when we were in the medical world, I used to think about like, how many decisions do we make a day was insane. And so even into your business now, like, where are the spots that I can reduce the amount of decisions that I have to make? And part of that comes down to reducing the number of questions that come your way as you build a
Right.
team. And that comes from, like you said, clarity. And there's a growth to this whole thing as well. I mean, I don't even know if we shared all of our journey in the beginning, but like, literally it doesn't happen overnight, right? I mean, depending on where you're at with your business today, right? You're a solo operator and you're like, all right, I need all these systems and these super brilliant people that can just operate really well. Like, you might not be able to get that from day one. You're kind of growing into it. Our first, our second hire essentially was somebody to go out and take pictures. I'm like, I don't know, bro, go take a picture of the house and I'll call him back later.
Yeah.
And so there was a time where we had, and that's, we wouldn't have had the people that are working for us today come to work for us on day two. Like,
Right.
no, no, thanks.
So
But
go ahead and get your shit together and then we'll talk.
when you get on Left Main, then you can give me a call. When you're that
Yeah.
kind of big time, I'll come back.
Yeah.
You know,
Yeah. No, it's true. And I think that's why these types of discussions are so helpful and important, is because the two kind of go together. You have to develop as a leader too, and articulate your vision and put together systems, and then like regrow as a leader again, and then build your team, and then that changes how you show up for each of those different people, and then how they lead, and like it. I think it's just a constant journey of efficiencies, like trying to find them, and then also growing yourself as a leader, through the different levels that you go through. And, like there are many days you wake up and like, also, there's not many days you wake up. It's every day you wake up. This is the biggest business I've ever run.
yeah.
Right. Like, okay, that was different than it was a year ago. So now I've got to be different. And that starts the day one of you launching and goes to day 5,000 of you launching, right? There's a constant leadership cycle, and this need for self-awareness, particularly so you can help build a team around you that's better than you and your weakness, right?
Yeah. And, I'm going to pitch this question to you because you're just a specialist in kind of being able to look at people and their operations and like finding areas for improvement. If I'm sitting there today and I'm like, you know what, you're right. I'm kind of getting to this burnt out area. I'm not even sure if I can identify what the hell, where should I start in terms of creating a system or an automation? Like, what portion of my business do I want to look at first?
okay, this is going to be a really nerdy way to answer that, but
Would expect nothing less.
stick with me. So I learned this really important lesson when I was working as an RN in the ER doing trauma at Wilson Memorial Hospital. It's a level 1 trauma center, very overwhelming. Like these big banged up people came in with lots of people around them, and like they were real sick. And the first thing you did when you had a really crazy trauma patient was expose. So you can see everything. Like, is there a hidden broken bone like sticking out of someone's leg? Is there, a gunshot wound to the abdomen that you can't see? Like, what is happening first? And I think that we can approach examining a business the same way. You've got to be open to looking at everything all at once before choosing where to start. And then you got to start in the place that you're bleeding the heaviest and work your way back. And generally with business where you're bleeding the heaviest, what that means is what is the most threat to or problem with revenue first. So like if you imagine your business like a conveyor belt, I'm using all these analogies. Oh my God.
Love it.
But if you imagine your business like a conveyor belt, the end of the conveyor belt is when you like ship your product, right? Or like you get the money in your bank right at the end. So you start at the end of your conveyor belt and you work your way up, because if you're bleeding the closest to revenue, then it's easier to fix that before you fix the bleeding with your leads or your marketing team, right? If you're having a hard time actually closing a contract, for example, or dispoing that contract or finding a buyer, finding financing, you need to fix that problem before you just go get more leads, because that's going to take 60 days to make any impact on revenue. Where if you fix your funding problem or your assignment problem or whatever it is, you're solving revenue problems way quicker. So I like to look when I talk to entrepreneurs and real estate investors that are feeling really burnt out and feeling like they're not making as much money as they should, and like this feeling of, I just feel like I'm missing something. Like I should be making more. What the heck is going on? The first thing I look at is their entire funnel from lead coming in all the way through transactions actually closing and having a revenue event, and find where the holes are in that process and start at the end and work our way up. And I think having some quick wins with fixing revenue also helps cure a little bit of burnout, because part of burnout is hopelessness and like not seeing the light through. And if we can find some wins there and like impact revenue right away, it can kind of take some of the pressure off. And you're like, okay, I can be a little bit calmer. I'm in control again. I think there's a way through. And then you have to actually change. We're going to stop the bleeding and you're going to feel better about revenue, which, that's going to take a couple months of steady progress. But then you're going to feel like you're back at zero again or baseline again. Now you have to do things differently. Now we're going to look at your team. We're going to look at your leadership. We're going to look at your process. We're going to look at all of your systems. Where are the inefficiencies? Where are things duplicated? Where should there be some redundancy? Like, do you only have one person answering the phone? And then if that person's sick, nobody answers the phone. Like, so then we start looking at all those things after we stop the bleeding, if that makes sense. And so there always needs to be a focus on reliable revenue. But then once we go through that and we fix some holes, we fix the problem, the actual systems and processes next, so that the holes don't re-manifest.
Yeah.
And that was a journey of lots of examples. Hopefully that makes sense.
I love that. It's really cool because we don't do this often. That's actually one of the exciting things about doing this podcast with you, is because like we don't take this opportunity. People probably think that maybe we talk like this all the day at the kitchen table, but we don't. And talking to you and how I'm thinking and how you think makes me realize like how we work so well together, because I think we bring nuance areas to the business, right? Like that is so
Trauma
critical.
references.
Yeah.
Well, how would you look at that then?
Right. So how you looked at that problem is critical, right? To the idea of systems and operations. And that's your core genius, right? You go really well with that, versus I kind of go on to like people and energy side. So everything you said is 100% accurate, and you need to protect the hell out of your revenue. And then also you have to make sure, from my standpoint, I'm thinking that you have to protect your energy just like you're going to protect your revenue. Mm-hmm. So as you're looking at something, taking a look at your calendar and be like, where are my energy vampires? Where am I draining of my vampire? Because at the end of the day, even if you can make a lot of money and be happy, like doing a real shit situation. And like, if you make enough money, it'll be good for a period of time. But either the money dries up a little bit or you get used to that elevated level of money. And then all of a sudden, if you have no energy and it's defeating you, what you're doing, then that's also going to be a problem. So really kind of making sure that you're protecting your energy, just like you'd want to protect your revenue. And ways to do that, I'll throw in some references of my own. You got to put your own oxygen mask on first,
It's
and
true.
like, so what do I have to do? I have to guard my time with energy, diet, exercise, sleep, those sort of things. What are my habits looking like? Are my habits setting me up for success? And literally, it's probably a little bit embarrassing. This is the first, literally this weekend was the first time that I looked through my calendar and said, I need to put like a dedicated CEO time block on my calendar. That's like CEO thinking time of like all the crap that I'm supposed to be thinking about. Like, what's your most important job as a CEO? You want to sit in that role, but not have a dedicated time. Like when it, you know what I mean, gets pushed off, and then just never happens. And so, guarding your energy as you're going to guard your time, and
It's
what's
huge.
draining my energy. Can I create a system with that? Can I create an automation to that? Or can I put a person in that place?
I love that. It's really good. And I think you're really good at that. I'll be like, oh, we need to do these 10 things, bam, bam, bam. And you're like, well, I'm gonna only do two. And it's gonna be what are the most impactful things? So I've been challenged with the way you think of that too. Like hyper prioritize. You have your priorities, and then you hyper prioritize the priorities, you know?
All right, cool. So we've talked a lot about the idea of transitioning from hustle to this CEO boss type energy. So if business disappeared as we know it today and we had to restart, how would you do it with less of the hustle and more of the systems? What would you build?
What would be like the first thing I do?
Yeah.
I think the first thing I would do is build a customer list, because I think relationships are the way out of the hustle. And I think that's particularly personal for me, because I am the one who likes to brute force things, and I have been just so humbled and empowered by a network of people and team members and customers. And I think at this point, I'm 40 years old, been in business a really long time. I have made amazing connections. So if I had to completely start from scratch, I would go build an epic customer list and like solve, that the people's problems I can solve, and go build an awesome team list, and then run at this from a team perspective, not necessarily just from a brute force perspective. So customer list would be the first system I build.
Yeah, I agree. And communication is paramount. So, like, how can I automate and put a process, a decision matrix process
Mhm.
into communicating with people?
Yep.
And I leave it at that because you could talk about sellers, buyers, uh, vendors. How do I have a system around communication with the people that are going to propel me forward?
Right. Like answering that question, like, who should I talk to today? That's what I would go for first.
Beautiful.
Now, fast forward to this week. Has there been any moment in time in the last week where you have felt this hustle chaos come back in? Just
Yeah.
creep on into your
I mean,
life, your
honestly,
peace.
right? I mean, honestly, we even just talked about it, right? So at this point in this stage of our business, I mean, we have multiple acquisitions. People, I'm not going out and meeting with people. I'm not going into houses. So we actually kind of already answered this question in the podcast, where I like recognize an opportunity as a leader to go out and lead first. Lead by. There are times as a leader that you lead by going first. There's a time when you're behind, and in this opportunity, we have a few newer people on there, and I felt like I needed to set the example of like, listen, hustle, grind or not, shit needs to get done.
Yeah.
And so there I am. I pop back in, and the idea is like multiplication. You do something one time, visualize this for the team that things can be done. Don't see an obstacle. Like, you're not going to be successful if you end at an obstacle. The obstacle is just a problem to be solved, and how can you get over that problem? And like I said, literally creating things with like broken pieces of a bed and a chair. You find a way through to push things through. That's what differentiates people that are successful and that are not.
Yeah. I love it. This is good. This is really good. Hopefully, all of you listening have gotten some value out of that, from our crazy stories and our open book. I hope it creates an opportunity for you to talk through some of these things as to and why potentially you are stuck in a hustle loop, and give you some ideas on how to break out.
Yeah, I want to leave people with this, with the idea that like hustle builds traction, systems build freedom, where are you at in your business and what do you have to do to move to the next level?